Souls games are finely crafted horror. Natural forces like pain, fear, and death are abundant in these games. And even then, there is a certain beauty to it. A beauty that could be understood by those who are passionate. A perfect example for that is the Deep Nest in Hollow Knight. It's a rare place where you can appreciate fear. Yeah, I know what I said. During the whole game, the environment was beyond stunning. It was a sight to see, but when it comes to the Deep Nest, everything changes. Your arrival is greeted with nothing but pitch darkness. At this point in the game, you know nearly everything that the game has to offer, but the tides will turn once you step into the Deep Nest. Unlike many regions in the game, Deep Nest doesn't bow down to you. It wants you to submit to it. It does a great job at terrifying you. It's a horror game done right. Most horror games are scary only because of the jump scares, and even then that gets blunt over time. But Deep Nest consistently acts as a fearmonger. It's fascinating how someone could create a place like this. They are not outright telling you that this is scary. They are making you feel it in your bones. In the depths of the Deep Nest, fear doesn't come from the creatures around you. Fear comes from the creatures that aren't. You constantly feel like you are being watched, and you can find a safe place to rest. In seconds, you realize that the Deep Nest is vastly different from the rest of the game. Even your friendly cartographer that usually hums around is shivering, and the passages are so narrow that you can't even jump. The fundamental mechanics that you relied on are invalid when it comes to Deep Nest. You can't jump, you can't turn back, there are no benches, and there is none to help you. This loneliness is further polished by three main incidents. As you walk through the passages, you see someone just like you. Maybe it's help in the helpless maze of the Deep Nest, or maybe it's just as helpless as you are, and it betrays you. The same thing happens with the grubs, and the same thing happens with the distant villagers. You feel safe, you trust others, and then they trap you. It's just the same exact thing, but you fall for it every single time. This shows you how messed up fundamentals are as you stray further into the depths. It's scary, but without a doubt beautiful. And it's not only in the Deep Nest. Most, if not all, Souls type games make use of this hellish theme. But in Deep Nest, it's more concentrated than the others. Souls games intentionally make you feel alone and helpless. They put you in a tunnel that has no light at the end, and they'll take your torch. These places tell you that whatever the experience you had before isn't going to save you. It's showing you that it has its own set of rules with its own behavior. It's showing you how helpless and vulnerable you are. Out of all the genres in gaming, Souls games carve out the finest of bosses. As of now, that's how it is, but the definition of a well-made boss changes from person to person. For some, weaker bosses might be well made, for others, unfairly tough bosses might be well made. But I think a well made boss is a boss that will give you a good fight. So let me explain to you what a good boss battle is. A boss can be an obstruction or a challenge. An obstruction is something that blocks your path. This is the most common boss, and its job is to test your strength. You're going to try and somehow defeat it. If you can't, maybe you need to explore more. Maybe some in-game item can help you with that. And the sole purpose of this boss is to test your progression. It does the same job as a school exam. The second one is the challenger. This is the more functional boss, and this boss's job is to give you a good fight. You can defeat this boss with raw strength. Well, you can do that sometimes, but it's no fun. This is exactly why some people hate Souls games. They treat these bosses not like a challenge but like an obstruction. To make it crystal clear, the bosses are the core of a Souls type game, and their bosses are made to challenge your brain, not your skills. And that's a fascinating feature. This genre doesn't entertain you like other genres. The storyline is faded, the graphics aren't the best, and the music and the art style aren't original or exceptional. Don't get me wrong, all these features are great, but they're not at the top. But all these features gather up to create a perfect environment for a masterpiece of a battle. And Souls bosses rely on this environment to create a depressing theme. It's very useful for them. And that just shows you how different this genre is. To fight a Souls boss, you need persistence and tactics. You have to pick the right weapon, the right set of armor, and you have to have a plan, and you have to go through hours and hours of trial and error to even make a plan. So it's a whole process, and then you can fight the boss. It's just like in the movies. Throughout this whole journey, you need to be persistent. I know sometimes it gets frustrating to do this over and over, but if I have a lot of fun when I win, then the frustration is a small price to pay. And that probably applies to you too. And that's what a good boss battle is. It entertains you like no other boss battle. And this genre has mastered the art of making an exceptional boss. Souls games tend to be different in many aspects. Games entertain you in a lot of ways. In most cases, it's by giving you a piece of media. It could be a well-written story or well-made gameplay. But in some rare cases, the game entertains you by introducing inceptive media. That means the game plants a seed in your mind, and while you're playing the game, the seed grows. Imagine the game as a tool and the player as its user. There are very few games that have this structure. Sandbox games and Souls games are the only examples that I can think of. And when it comes to Souls games, they plant a seed that grows into a certain behavior. Self-efficacy. What's that? Simply put, it's the ability to believe in yourself. Something like confidence, but a wee bit different. And the whole nature of a Souls game is made to make the player believe in themselves. I don't know if that's intentional or not. Now, this is where things get interesting. To do this, to plant the seed of self-efficacy, Souls games need to work with three aspects. One aspect is the core reputation. A Souls game need to be known as tough and pitiless. Self-efficacy begins with rock bottom, and Souls games always put you into that level for a reason. To remind you that the game is genuinely difficult, just like what you've heard. And this is where reputation plays a part. You yourself is going to get out of the pit that the game throws you into, and you know that it's going to be tough. And when you climb out of that pit, you genuinely feel proud of yourself. You did something others couldn't do. You have accomplished something extraordinary. And just like that, the game turned its reputation into the player's pride. The second aspect is repetition. Now, what Souls type games do next is maintain that feeling of accomplishment. They put you in these tough situations again and again while nurturing your self-efficacy. Souls games repeat their challenges, but they don't give you the same challenge. They'll make different challenges so you can adapt to them. That's why you can rank these bosses in a specific order. They are well engineered so it doesn't feel stagnant, and the players don't have to deal with a lot of frustration. They still have to deal with a bit of frustration. This process creates self-trust within you, and they make sure that you have faith in yourself. So with repetition comes confidence. We are still not at self-efficacy, but we are pretty close to it. The third aspect is loneliness. Yeah, there is a reason why most players tell you to go blind on a Souls game. Don't watch spoilers, don't watch walkthroughs, just go blind. That's because this whole process is about self-efficacy. It's not about being helped to overcome challenges. It's about you completing tasks alone. Souls games have mastered the art of silently appreciating you. If you didn't understand, this whole game is just a silent appreciation of yourself. The game puts you on the challenge alone, and the game puts you on the pedestal alone. These games show you your capability. They don't tell you that or give you a certificate, but they'll make you feel it. You single-handedly overcame every challenge in one of the most difficult games ever made. And that's what self-efficacy feels like. And that is the beauty of Souls games.